Hi, I'm Sara Segerlin. I am with the Gregg Museum of Art and Design. I'm the museum director, and with me today is Carl Joe Williams, who's an artist from New Orleans and has developed collaboratively with NC State University students an immersive installation and exhibition called Amazing Grace, Confronting the Enduring Legacy.
Well, it means that we are having the type of conversation that could reverberate through time, and we are trying to have a conversation that will help to, kind of minimize white supremacy from how we operate in the world, and we could actually try to create empathy within the show by asking questions that can kind of whittle us down to seeing how deeply connected we are as human beings. So I was playing around with the idea Amazing Grace, and because of the history of the history of the song. What was his name? John Newton, who was a slave ship captain and who thought he was going to die on the open seas because of the weather, and he made a promise to God that if he changed his life, if he got out of this situation alive, he would change his life. And he was embarrassed and basically ashamed of how he had been living his life before, because he was a slave ship captain. So when he got out of the situation, he actually did become a pastor and wrote that song that is ironically a staple in the Black church till this day, and in everybody's church, for that matter. But I thought the history behind the song was fascinating, and this is a man who went through a near-death experience and decided that he wanted to be a better human being. So I thought, there's layers of meaning there, So that's why I decided to use that title. I carry those with me. Those ancestors, they're always with you. So being more specific, I did use an image of my ancestors as kind of like the lead into the exhibition, and it had a lot to do with environment and history, and what the particular image that I kind of reproduced from an old family photo. It really deals with history and class and race and where people live and redlining and all of those things rolled up into one in that image. So that was one of the reasons why I chose that piece as a lead-in to the exhibition, and everybody in that image is one of my ancestors who's passed on. So interestingly enough, I was always interested in textiles and some of my favorite artists while I was coming up was people like Faith Marengo, who worked on story quilts, and I was a big fan of her work. And people like John Biggers, who I was a big fan. He was an artist that was out of Houston, and just like I had been studying Afro Cobra, I was a fan of Afro Cobra. I guess I'm, from that particular generation who was looking back at those artists who had come up in the 50s and 60s. So that said, also I was mentored by an artist named John Scott out of New Orleans, who is definitely a mentor. I wind up going to his studio a few days out the week, and this was in the 80s. And I would go to his studio and at like 12 o'clock and stay until like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then go home. And I mean, we're talking like in the middle of school year. So he was one of those artists who did use a lot of rhythm and a lot of pattern in his work. So I studied that work, but then after a while I was trying to figure out ways to internalize that approach to making work, but also push it forward so it could actually become more of a personal language. And I feel like I'm still learning how to do that to a certain extent. So that's where all of those, like a bunch of different influences that kind of cross paths, you know. When we started talking about this exhibition, I thought that, oh wow, that would be really cool to be able to work with students and to really help to create questions that could possibly follow them throughout life, and to make them more self-aware or whatever it is, you know, to create more empathy in the world. So after talking to Jason Greer, the person who I collaborated with on the questions, I entrusted him to help to craft questions that would be perfect for young people to really ponder. So that was a collaboration. The very question itself was a collaboration, right? So yeah, and we did it. And so interestingly enough, some of the feedback that I've gotten from some of the students has been overwhelmingly great, like in terms of the type of impact that I wanted to make. It feels like, yeah, you actually are. So I'm very happy about that, because you know, you think intellectually, you think, yeah, this would work. The interesting thing about that work is some of the work is older, and because it's old TVs, right? They only have a lifespan of so long before the technology is gone, and you know, and trying to find someone to like keep that work going would be not necessarily impossible, but very difficult and extremely expensive. So so I figured out, I mean, I've figured out, a shout out to Dan in New Orleans who helped me to repurpose older work that would have issues in the future. I was able to, with the technology that we have today, utilize lighter and less expensive to upkeep videos. So once I was able to figure out how to do that, I just went and started utilizing a lot of the works that I had in my studio and bringing them into the piece, because I thought that seeing these works juxtaposed against the videos and those being video pieces themselves, I thought would create a nice rhythm to the exhibition, where, you know, one piece might be bits and pieces of mass media imagery, and the other piece would literally be a human being pouring out their emotions about a particular subject. So, and for me, it's working. So it was the exhibition is more like a vehicle to kind of confront some of these ideas while we're here. So, and in the process, you're interacting with a lot of visual elements, work, artwork. So just thinking about it as a vehicle to get to a place. In the same way, like a drum pattern will help you get to a place in the music. Creating that bridge across, as I say, the tissue that connects it all together. How humanity has these different issues where, a group of people is not being treated well. So I thought that would be okay to keep in the context of the work. And then there's another one where I've been fascinated by the image of that Michael Jackson video, black or white, because I was talking to somebody the other day, that was like the first time I think our generation, I think we were about the same age, so that was the first time our generation and the whole world had seen, I think it was CGI, right? I think that was like the very first time. So when all of those faces morphed together, I thought it was very poetic and beautiful. So if you isolate that, what does that say? What kind of statement are you making about humanity if you just loop all of that together, all these different people who keep morphing into each other? So that was like this pop culture, How can you use pop culture to make a statement about humanity in the world and the kind of world we're living in? So that's one of the reasons why I chose it. But then there's also this idea that we're collective humanity, but we're also a part of the nature. We're a part of our environment. We're a part of the land. We're a part of all of this. And if we can't get it together and get along with one another, then we have bigger problems, because we are definitely a part of nature. And so it was just, I guess, making that point, that connection, I love to mentor young people. So it's just a part of I guess who I am over all these years. And as a result, I gotten a lot of opportunities to work with young people. Even as a practicing artist, like I don't teach anymore, but I've always found myself in a situation where I'm working with young people. Even if they're just helping me to create some work, so, but as a result, I'm always open to doing work that impacts the community, or working with the community on different works. Well, I was just thinking about how sound can shape space, especially how you experience the space that you're in. So for me, it's important that, well, let me just say, in the past, I've used headphones for this type of work. And I've realized that there can be a magic moment, and it's a very delicate balance. But there can be a magic moment when all of these voices are working together
to shape and form the sounds in the room and overlap. And then when you walk up to one of the videos, to be able to hear it clearly, that's the sweet spot that I'm going for. So it says a lot about your own proximity in the world when you can't hear anything until you get to right close to it, you know. And I think that's a beautiful poetry that's a part of the work, that you can't hear anything until you get right up on it. And that's what I wanted the experience to be like. Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know. Let's just jump in there. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Maybe I start with maybe we start with fields of color. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Color spectrum. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Well, sometimes I think about the color first, and then just start jumping in there. Yeah, this is the idea that if you were able to like see through the matrix of reality, you would probably see a bunch of grids. Could be wrong. But it's the easiest way to kind of break things down. A lot of times when you're looking at a solid object, and then you want to like, I guess, represent it in a way where you're only dealing with the shape and form, you know. So I think there's something to it. But other than that, we're also talking about dealing with a lot of African textiles and quilts, and all of these things were an influence for me. And we were talking about Afro-Cobra, and that was a movement. And I remember I had one of their catalogs in my studio, and I would I would just look through their catalog because they had an exhibition in Atlanta, and I just held on to the catalog for years, you know. I don't even know where it is now, but it was in the studio, and it was kind of informing me about certain things that I was trying to do in my own work.